The news hit Europe like a thunderclap, an unexpected jolt that sent shockwaves through boardrooms, factories, and government offices across the continent. China was imposing strict new controls on rare earth exports, a move that instantly threatened the delicate balance of global trade. Overnight, the lifeblood of Europe's green industries, electric vehicles, wind turbines, and advanced batteries, was in jeopardy, casting a shadow over the continent's ambitious climate goals. For years, Europe had relied on a steady, almost invisible flow of these critical minerals from China, rarely questioning the stability or security of that supply chain. Now, that confidence was shattered. Boardrooms and ministries scrambled, realizing their entire industrial base, jobs, innovation, and economic growth, was at risk of grinding to a halt. The materials powering Europe's climate ambitions, neodymium, terbium, and other rare earths, were suddenly transformed into powerful geopolitical bargaining chips, wielded with strategic intent. This wasn't a distant trade spat, it was a direct threat to jobs, technology, and the continent's future prosperity. The impact was immediate, felt on factory floors and in research labs alike. The EU's dependence on a single supplier had become a glaring vulnerability. What was once an abstract risk of supply chain disruption was now a harsh, undeniable reality. With empty shelves and halted production lines, Europe faced a stark choice: adapt quickly, innovate, and diversify, or risk falling irreversibly behind in the global race for technological leadership. The crisis demanded immediate action and a total rethink of strategy, pushing leaders to consider new alliances, domestic mining, and investment in alternative technologies. This was more than economics. It was a test of Europe's autonomy, resilience, and ability to chart its own course in an increasingly uncertain world. As the initial shock faded, resolve hardened. Leaders and industry giants knew this moment would define Europe's future for decades to come. The scramble to secure Europe's industrial destiny had begun, setting in motion a new era of innovation, collaboration, and strategic independence. Europe's reliance on China for rare earths was not a sudden development, but rather a process that unfolded over decades, shaped by shifting global priorities and economic pressures. In the 1980s and 90s, China rapidly expanded its rare earth production, flooding the market with cheap materials. By leveraging low labor costs and lax environmental regulations, China undercut global competitors, making it nearly impossible for others to keep up. As a result, mines and refineries across Europe and other regions shut down, unable to compete. Europe, seeking cleaner air and lower costs, willingly outsourced the dirty work of mining and refining to China, believing it was a win-win. By the 2020s, over 98% of the EU's rare earths came from China. Materials essential for everything from electric vehicle motors and wind turbines to smartphones and advanced medical devices. These elements became the invisible backbone of Europe's modern economy. The continent's technological might, its innovation and manufacturing prowess, now rested on a foundation that was far more fragile than most realized. For years, warnings about this growing dependency were brushed aside. The market logic, cheap, reliable supply, was simply too tempting for policymakers and business leaders to resist. But China didn't just mine rare earths. It built a vast industrial ecosystem, controlling the entire value chain from extraction and processing to the production of high-tech magnets and components. This dominance gave Beijing enormous leverage over Europe's most advanced industries, making it a critical player in the continent's economic future. In the pursuit of efficiency and profit, Europe had effectively handed over the keys to its industrial future, leaving itself exposed to external pressures. The dragon's grip was now complete, with China holding unprecedented sway over Europe's supply chains. Suddenly, the true cost of that long-standing convenience and complacency became painfully clear as supply chains faltered and shortages loomed. The continent faced a hard lesson. Strategic resources, the lifeblood of modern industry, can't be left to chance or the whims of a single supplier. Europe's vulnerability was exposed for all to see, sparking urgent debates about how to regain control and secure its industrial future. China's export restrictions turned a theoretical risk into a harsh reality. What once seemed like a distant possibility suddenly became a pressing crisis for industries across the globe. For European manufacturers, the impact was immediate and severe. Factory managers watched anxiously as inventories dwindled and production lines slowed to a crawl. The uncertainty rippled through every level of the supply chain. Workers on the ground felt the pressure too, as they inspected components that might soon be impossible to replace. The sense of unease grew with each passing day, as shipments were delayed or cancelled altogether. The new licensing system for rare earths and related tech sent shockwaves through European industry. Suddenly, the flow of critical materials was subject to Beijing's political calculations, leaving executives scrambling for alternatives. Car makers and renewable energy firms faced production slowdowns and rising costs. Each wind turbine and EV motor depended on rare earths now caught in a geopolitical crossfire, threatening the future of Europe's green industries. China's move wasn't a full embargo, but a calculated squeeze, delays, uncertainty, and price hikes. European companies scrambled to secure dwindling supplies, threatening jobs and climate goals. The market grew volatile and long-term contracts were suddenly worthless. The message from Beijing was unmistakable. Europe's industrial policy was now hostage to China's foreign policy. The old model, relying on a single dominant supplier, was dead. European leaders realized they could no longer afford such vulnerability. Europe had to act or risk losing its industrial edge. The crisis forced a painful reckoning in Brussels, Berlin, and Paris. Policymakers debated urgent measures, from diversifying supply chains to investing in domestic mining and recycling. The continent's green transition and economic security were on the line. The era of complacency was over. Europe needed a new strategy, fast. The stakes had never been higher, and the path forward would demand unprecedented cooperation and innovation. The EU responded with speed and unity, launching the Critical Raw Materials Act. By 2030, Europe aimed to mine, process, and recycle a significant share of its own critical minerals. The new mantra: diversify and friendshore supply chains with trusted partners like Australia and Canada. Trade deals became strategic alliances, covering investment and technology. At home, the EU fast-tracked permits for new mines and refineries, recognizing domestic production as a security imperative. Financial support de-risked private investment, while agencies coordinated the continent-wide push. The free market was no longer left to its own devices. Resilience now mattered as much as efficiency. Europe was no longer a passive customer, but an active player, shaping its own destiny. The strategic awakening had begun. The crisis united governments and industry like never before. Automakers and tech firms worked hand in hand with officials to secure jobs and supply chains. Companies scoured the globe for new suppliers and invested in rare earth-free technologies. Direct deals with emerging mines in Australia and Canada provided stability and confidence. Governments backed risky projects with financial guarantees and diplomatic muscle. Central agencies ensured a coordinated continent-wide response. Europe's message was clear: it would not be a passive victim. The crisis sparked a wave of adaptation and innovation, forging a stronger industrial future. Europe launched a massive innovation drive focusing on recycling and alternatives. Billions flowed into advanced recycling tech, turning e-waste into a strategic resource. Companies like Solvay and Umicore led the way, recovering rare earths from discarded electronics. Ambitious recycling targets and better product design became law. Simultaneously, scientists raced to develop new materials and motor designs that used fewer or no rare earths. Every ton recycled, every new technology, chipped away at China's leverage. The innovation push was a long-term game, but Europe was determined to win. The continent was turning crisis into opportunity, building resilience through technology. Strategic autonomy was now a matter of engineering as much as policy. Europe's response to the rare earth crisis has set it on a new path. The continent is moving from fragile globalization to a model where resilience and security matter as much as efficiency. New mines and recycling plants are coming online, eroding China's monopoly. Diversification benefits not just Europe, but the entire global supply chain. Investment in recycling and alternatives is stabilizing prices and reducing environmental impact. Europe's green and digital transitions now rest on a more secure foundation. The threat of a single political decision derailing industry is fading. What began as a crisis has become a story of resolve and renewal. Europe has shown it can adapt, innovate, and protect its interests. The journey to full autonomy continues, but the direction is clear: a resilient, independent future.